Thank you, Sarah. You're watching BBC Spotlight. The NHS in Somerset has saved £250,000 by offering extra help to people who frequently attend A&E. The high-intensity use service was set up to get people the right help at home before their condition escalated. In its first year supporting 141 patients, visits to A&E almost halved. Matthew Hill reports.
This is a day's worth of medication.
How many tablets is that?
42 a day.
Gail Hodges relies on a cocktail of drugs to keep various conditions at bay. Living with dystonia, fibromyalgia and osteoporosis meant she used to end up in Yeovil's A&E twice a week. Gail is classified by the NHS as a high-intensity user, which means she comes to A&E more than 10 times every 3 months.
I was at the end of my tether of, I don't want to be here anymore because I can't do what I wanted to do.
I believe she was seen by a specialist up in London.
But over the past year, patients like her are regularly discussed by a team of medical and social care staff and then supported more at home.
They reassured me, they helped me, and that's made so much difference in my life. I no longer feel like a number, I actually feel like a person, and that's down to them.
In its first year, 141 patients who are frequent users of emergency departments have taken part in this scheme, and it's led to a 48% reduction in use by this group. Not only that, it's saved money, £250,000 in the first 6 months.
An older lady we were working with a while ago was attending A&E about 4 or 5 times a week, and lots of it was to do with difficulties between the landlord and care services, and the lady was falling over her access to her house. So my Ubuntu service simply found a grant and built a ramp for her, and that stopped her attendances overnight.
And for this busy A&E in Yeovil, staff are already noticing an impact.
The high-intensity users are a challenge, so they're often very complex medical and mental health problems that the needs are perhaps not best met from an emergency department, which is why this new service obviously is invaluable from our point of view as we are experiencing significant winter pressures at the moment.
As the NHS does its best to deal with huge demand, it's schemes that keep patients like Gail away from our hospitals that could make a huge difference. Matthew Hill, BBC Spotlight.
The cost of a shotgun certificate will more than double from next month. The new legislation follows a key coroner's recommendation from the Keyham shootings in 2021. The Home Office says from next month, new applicants will have to pay £194 for a licence. Residents are demanding that work is carried out immediately to right a road which has been closed to traffic for a year due to a landslip. Warfleet Road in Dartmouth is currently a 4-mile drive from the town for residents and emergency vehicles, even though it's just a short walk away. The delay has been caused because of a dispute between Devon County Council and a local landowner over who is responsible for it. John Ayres has more.
This wall and road collapsed in February last year, leaving a hole that's too dangerous to drive around. The delay to get it fixed has left residents fuming.
It causes tremendous inconvenience to residents, to businesses, to contractors, to deliveries, and more importantly to emergency services. And we know of 1 or 2 incidents where ambulances couldn't get to people in the area very easily.
Initially we thought it would just probably be a couple of months, and it dragged on and on. Unfortunately, we have been given no information by the council, which is outrageous. So it's all been rumour. So we haven't known. There was a rumour that the work was starting in October, and that didn't happen, and people were becoming exasperated.
The delay, it would appear, is due to a dispute over who's responsible for the repair. The council says it doesn't own the wall. It is the responsibility of the landowner and their insurers to deal with this, and that the road cannot be fixed until the wall is fixed.
We don't care who's responsible for it, whether it's Devon County Council or whether it's a private landowner. If it's privately owned, which counties say it is, then they need to come in, put the workmen in here, rebuild the wall, and then put those charges onto the landowner, and they have to then prove that is the case.
Each bit of this wall is apparently owned by the property it overlooks. The insurers for Chris Chambers, the owner of this part of the wall, believes the responsibility lies with the council.
The reason the wall has failed is because the road was in such a poor condition anyway. It's the road that has caused the wall to fail.
For now, it would seem a stalemate. John Ayres, BBC Spotlight, Dartmouth.
Once famous or possibly infamous for its crowded pubs and clubs, Plymouth's Union Street is no longer the draw it once was. A casualty of changing times, many former hotspots are now empty and actually falling into disrepair. But a project called Nudge Community Builders is coming up with new ideas for old buildings. Kevin Hay reports on how the organisation is even using one former club to grow food.
Union Street was the beating heart of Plymouth's nightlife, but times and tastes change. Many once thriving pubs and clubs are closed. That's where the Nudge project comes in. The community-based initiative is bringing derelict buildings here back into use. This former nightclub, its latest purchase.
So we're inside C103 or JFK's, depending on how old you are. It was an old nightclub. You can see the bus here, which was where people got cocktails and shots.
Once the building is refurbished, there'll be space for a variety of small business ventures, including a hydroponic farm, growing herbs on the old dance floor. A bold idea, but sometimes that's what's needed to bring about change.
There's a lot of excitement and people really enjoy coming in and exploring it. So the way that Nudge works is that we bring people into the building early on. We have all sorts of opportunities for people to come in and see what it's like now, and then they see the change and the progress that starts to happen.
Some parts of the building need less work than others. The basement, for example, is already an ideal home for a mushroom farm.
This is where the mushrooms start their life. We've got various different bags at different stages of inoculation here.
I never would have thought it was a possibility. Early 2000s, Union Street was just chock full of people. It's busy every night. It's all changed, obviously. So it's good that these spaces are getting repurposed into something that provides the community and benefits many people.
Across the road is another Nudge project, the former YMCA building, now rebranded as The Plot, home to a number of small businesses. Dominic Lines lives on Union Street and says reopening these buildings is improving the community.
Just seeing the place change and grow because of Nudge and The Plot here and over the road, it's great to see that it's become a more friendlier and enjoyable environment to be in.
All this work is costing hundreds of thousands of pounds, which comes from various redevelopment grants and private investors. With around a quarter of the buildings here standing empty, it'll take a lot of work and imagination to put Union Street back on the map. Kevin Hay, BBC Spotlight, Plymouth.
Let's take a look at the weather forecast now. And Dan's here in the studio. Quiet times?
Yeah, still quiet, Victoria.
Good.
Through the weekend as well, actually, not a great deal of change. Good afternoon. A lot of cloud around still today, though, for many of us, but there has been some brightness as well, particularly up towards the north coast along the Bristol Channel. Some brightness here. We've got high pressure still just gradually moving away from us, but it's not moved too far from where it was yesterday. It's with us into the weekend as well. You will notice this weather front out to the west, though. It's moving a little bit closer for us through Sunday night and into Monday. Fairly weak as it bumps up against that high pressure, just bringing a bit of patchy light rain and drizzle for some of us. But it's mostly dry across the UK now, and some holes in the cloud towards the Isles of Scilly and the north coast, and getting towards the Channel Islands, the Cotswolds, a bit of sunshine coming through in places here. And through the rest of the afternoon, we'll be chasing holes in the clouds. Still quite a lot of it about, but some holes, a bit of brightness every now and then, some sunny spells. And still with maybe light winds from a south or southeasterly direction. Temperatures are between 7 and 11 degrees. More of the same overnight, still a lot of cloud, a few holes, and temperatures might just get low enough for the odd spot of frost in some areas where temperatures just get towards 0 or just above. A bit of mist and fog possible into tomorrow morning as well. But generally, I think it should be a bit brighter tomorrow, more in the way of sunny spells around than we've had today. And temperatures, similar numbers, really, up to a high of around 10, maybe 11 degrees. Have a good afternoon. I'll see you again directly. Victoria.
Thank you, Dan. And that's all from the Lunchtime team. We'll be back, though, with Spotlight at 6:30. I'll hand you now back to Sarah for the rest of the news at 1.